Greetings, everybody. I am the Starving Martian, and today we're going to be taking a look at Mars Attacks, issue number 1/2, put out by Topps Comics and distributed by Wizard Magazine. So it's been a while since we looked at one of these Topps Mars Attacks comics, so I figured this would be a good way to catch up on what's previously happened. But before we get into the meat of the comic, let's take a look at this very nice cover. This is an excellent piece of Mars Attacks artwork here. You got Martian, presumably Komodoth, always identifiable by these large cheekbones, giving a big thumbs down to humanity as he clutches the Earth. And Martian ships destroy humanity's last refuges here. Got a classic Beauty and the Beast imagery going on, as well as some burning flesh. And so this is a very nice cover. Captures perfectly the feel of the comic book series, as well as paying homage to a few of the classic trading cards. Now, as I said, this is a Wizard 1/2 issue. Now, Wizard, of course, was a comic book magazine that was popular in the 1990s, and they would offer these 1/2 issues. You had to, clip your little coupon and send in the money, and they would send you the comic book, and as well as the issue itself. You would also get this little puppy, the Certificate of Authenticity, to prove that you have an I don't know how many bootleg issue 1/2s were there, but for whatever reason they did also include this Certificate of Authenticity, which is kind of nice because it gives you some details here. For example, we learned that this came out of Wizard, the Guide to Comics, number 66. So that's kind of cool. And it's got some nice artwork right on here. It's the same image, same Martian there, but in more subtle, subdued colors. Kind of looks like a check. But in any case, so if you're ordering one of these, make sure it's got the certificate of authenticity, so you know that you got the full deal going on here. So the story is called the Invasion Dossier, and basically it's catching you up to speed on the events of both the Mars Attacks miniseries, the one that we already covered, and the 7-issue regular series, which we've again already covered. If you missed out on those, just click on my name, Starving Martian. You'll find some playlists, including Mars Attacks, the comics, and that'll be included in there. But we begin with this one Martian soldier taking this resistance fighter prisoner. Now, at this point in the story, Mars has conquered approximately 1/2 of the Earth. They tried for the whole shebang, but as we'll see, it didn't quite work out for them. They end up building a wall, and Mars controls half of the Earth. The humans control the other half. But the poor humans stuck on the wrong side of the wall are subject to this sort of thing. So this one resistance fighter is captured and brought aboard an alien craft, and then branded with this white Martian tattoo on her forehead. That signifies her as a white card, which is a human that has certain privileges. A white card human will not be disintegrated on sight, which is good, but they might be horribly experimented on, which is bad. So, kind of a give and take there. And she asks the Martian why they came, why they're here. And so the Martian goes over some of the details revealed in the early issues of the miniseries. Now, if you remember, the original miniseries has some backup stories taking place usually in the 60s and leading up to the actual invasion. Here we find that the Martians have been observing the world at least since the Trojan War, and apparently the Trojan horse is an actual historical fact. So I guess that's kind of cool. He tells of how several scouting missions were ordered before the invasion to see if mankind could be dealt with peaceably or not. Unfortunately, none of them ever returned. All were killed and so it was decided that they would go to war. But some info was needed first, and so more scouting missions, including Martians in disguise, using their adopted feminine wiles to abduct unsuspecting males and probe them for information. And of course, this is where we get the classic Martian spy girl from. The poor victim would be returned to Earth, where he would rant his story to whoever would listen, and this story would eventually be made into the Mars Attacks trading cards that we all know and love so very, very much. Nice reproductions there, by the way. It tells of how they bred their giant insects, experimented with controlling Earth's bug population as part of their invasion. We get a look at some of the ships and mechanical monstrosities that were readied against the Earth. And also a rare look at Mars itself. Now here's the exterior of Mars, dry, barren. Used to be plush and livable, but long since ceased to be so. So the Martians have gone underground, where they've built these magnificent cities, where they grow their own food and train their own armies. And then the Armada is launched. Now, why all these ships are flying so close to the sun is quite beyond me, because you don't have to go near the sun to get to Earth from Mars, but be that as it may. We now recount the invasion itself, as monuments were destroyed, civilization crumbled, population centers annihilated, giant insects terrorized. And just more random scenes of devastation. I do like this quote here by the Martian. "It was not war, but it was glorious." And here's a really nasty, menacing shot. Them leering over his poor captive. I do like the artwork here. Let's just hang on this picture for a minute. Just burn it into your brain. See if it gives you nightmares. Alright, and now we actually have an ad for Mars Attacks, The Art of the Movie, a book which I covered extensively back in December. So check that out. You can find it in my videos. Unfortunately, the one Achilles heel the Martians had was our nuclear submarine, something they were unprepared for. See, Mars doesn't actually have oceans, so the concept of hiding vessels underneath the water with nuclear capabilities didn't even occur to them. And we were able to use that to force a stalemate. We proved that we were perfectly willing and able to blow up parts of our own planet. We were going to render the entire Earth uninhabitable. Kind of, you can't have this planet, and if we can't have it, neither can you kind of scenario. So the wall was built as a compromise. Half of Earth for Mars, half of Earth for human beings. Unfortunately for the Martians, we were able to get a bit of a virus onto their ships, which would cause them to crash and destroy themselves. And so other methods had to be found to combat humanity. In the meanwhile, they're continuing to work on their genetic manipulation of mankind, or womankind in this issue. This, of course, it being Cannibal Ann, who we will get better acquainted with in future issues of Mars Attacks when we get to Mars Attacks High School. Speaking of, here's some children being educated. And the Martian concludes that the Martian race is superior in every way. Within a generation, mankind will be extinct. To which his captive laughs, and then starts to fade out of existence as reality cracks around our Martian friend, and she tells him that for all your intelligence and superior technology, when you had the chance to turn us into history, you failed. We're the ones who will win, because when it counts about us, you know nothing. And then we pull back on a nice reveal to find that our Martian is actually a prisoner of the humans. It's been the old switcheroo. And he's sitting there muttering to himself, I know nothing, nothing. And I do like just this full panel of emptiness with the Martian here and his tattered worldview just still in a pile at his feet. Something poetic about that. So we find out that the Martian's actually been kidnapped, and this entire thing was actually an interrogation by the woman that he thought he had captured. Turns out she's a head floating in a jar, another victim of Martian experimentation, but she's become good at these sort of interrogations, and using these wires and connections, is able to literally get into the Martian's mind and convince the Martian that she's helpless so that he will reveal all secrets to her. So this is the end of this interrogation. They've at least found out why the Martians invaded, and they know that this guy probably has more information. They'll try again at a later date, and so ends the issue. So like I said, nothing doesn't further the story of Mars Attacks in any way, but it does catch us up on previous events. It does feature all new artwork of those events, and it's just a nice companion piece to the series proper. Now, after the story, we do have a sketchbook, which is pretty cool. You get to see some of the behind-the-scenes artwork here. Here's some pencil and ink work before it was colored in. Here's the scene we were looking at earlier with the trading cards. They didn't actually redraw the cards. They just, as it states here, dropped them in. So they just put the reference number, which cards they needed, and then just edited that in later. Well, Mr. Page, you want to turn? You know you do. There you go. And one more bit of ashcan art with a laughing floating head just for fun. And if you can't appreciate a laughing floating head, you are visiting the wrong channel, my friend. And then over here, of course, an ad for Mars Attacks, the widescreen movie cards, which I actually reviewed quite early on in this channel's existence. If you missed out on those, just again, click on my name and find the Mars Attacks, the trading cards playlist, and they will be there. Do note that some of my earlier work, so it's not exactly the best review I've ever done. And then on the back we have an ad for Mars Attacks, the Savage Dragon, which is a really fun 4-issue miniseries that I hope to do in the near future. And so look forward to that. So that was Mars Attacks issue number 1/2. Now if you'd like a copy, these things tend to run a little bit on the expensive side for comic books. I picked mine up at a local comic shop. I think I paid like, I'm going to say $8 for it. I've seen it go like 10, 12, even 15 online. Another alternative to purchasing the actual issue is Mars Attacks Classics Volume 3, published by IDW. And this actually starts off with the Mars Attacks 1/2. First issue in there, which is a nice way to start. Again, get you caught up on current events. So either one of these I highly recommend. And so we will catch up with you next time with another review. But until then, this has been the Starving Martian reminding you, as always, to keep watching them skies. Later.